Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Report here on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. The European Union has given more detail on exactly how its €90 billion loan for Ukraine will be spent, including whether or not the money should only be used to, quote, buy European. Joining me with those details is our correspondent in Brussels, Alex Cadier. Good afternoon, Alex. So will this money be, quote, buy European only?
Well, good afternoon, Marie. The answer to that from the European Commission is that it will be buy European first. You may remember last month those European leaders staying late into the night until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning here in Brussels, debating whether or not to do a reparations loan based on Russia's frozen assets or an alternative. They chose to do a €90 billion loan from the European budget to Ukraine, only to be repaid by Ukraine through reparations from Russia after the war ends. The question then became, how will that money be spent? We heard from Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President.
The funds will be used to purchase equipment mainly from Ukraine, from the European Union and the EEA EFTA countries. But if these necessary procurement are not possible in this region and or in due time, then it might also occasionally be possible to acquire the equipment outside the European Union.
So the Commission President there saying that it is buy European first. Now, of course, we know that Ukraine has capacity to make more weapons, but doesn't necessarily have the money to pay for it. That's why the first point from President von der Leyen was to buy Ukrainian in Ukraine with European money. The other point, of course, was to prioritize buying European weapons. That comes from a push particularly from the French President Emmanuel Macron, who wants to reduce European dependency on buying American weapons. He also wants to promote the French defense industry, but clearly those European defense industries not necessarily able to cover everything that Ukraine needs and cover it quickly, and therefore that leaves a carve-out for buying elsewhere, be it from the United States, South Korea or others. So it is buy European first, not buy European only. This proposal still has to go through the legislative process here in Brussels. It has to go through the European Parliament and then be signed off by the member states. There will be a question as to whether or not France has been, will approve of this new system of buying European first. All of that determined over the next few weeks, but we have more details, as you said, Marie. That €90 billion loan will be spent on Ukrainian weapons, on European weapons, and then purchasing weapons elsewhere if needed. Two-thirds of that budget, €60 billion, will be for military spending for Ukraine. And as we've seen, of course, with the attacks on the energy infrastructure in that country, another third will be on civilian expenditure. More details, as you said, Marie, on how this money can be spent.
And that was Alex Cadier joining us from Brussels. Thanks very much. Several residents in Kyiv have had no access to heating or electricity for 4 days running. This winter is one of the harshest that Ukraine has experienced since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. And the aggressor continues to take advantage of it by attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure at every possible turn.
Ukraine is experiencing its harshest winter since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. Major cities across the country are struggling with power outages as Russia continues daily strikes on energy infrastructure. Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, home to about 4 million residents, is in dire straits. The city is still trying to recover from a large-scale attack on its power grid on January 9th. But since then, Russia has struck Kyiv's energy infrastructure at least 2 more times, making recovery nearly impossible.
The situation is difficult right now. There are disruptions to the supply of electricity and heat. We are also trying to ensure heating points have everything necessary. We are working. It is difficult to say when exactly the issue will be resolved. All responsible services are on site.
The situation is worsening due to the extremely cold winter, with daytime temperatures averaging minus 10 degrees Celsius and nighttime lows dropping to minus 18.
I was asleep on the sofa, covered myself with 2 blankets. It took some time to warm up, but nonetheless I did not have a good night's sleep because the cold doesn't allow you to sleep well.
To help residents stay warm, mobile shelters across the capital offer warmth, hot tea, charging stations and a brief escape from the harsh realities of daily life.
We support each other. Ukrainians are such resilient people. I think that this war will end someday. It can't go on forever. In order not to cry, I am laughing. We are playing cards now.
Overnight Tuesday, Russian forces shelled the city of Kryvyi Rih, the hometown of Ukraine's president. Critical infrastructure was hit, leaving at least 45,000 residents without heating. Zelensky wrote on social media that the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Zhytomyr and Kherson regions were also attacked overnight.
The main targets are energy facilities and critical infrastructure that ensure normal life for our people: heat, electricity. 113 strike drones were launched. About 70 of them were Shaheds, and there were also missiles, 3 of them ballistic. Right now, our top priority is strengthening our air defense, with missiles for the systems coming first.
While Ukraine continues to respond to Russian attacks, on Wednesday it launched a drone strike on the Russian city of Rostov-on-Don, sparking fires at an unidentified industrial facility. Ukraine says such attacks are meant to only target Moscow's military and energy infrastructure.
A historic summit is expected to take place at the White House today. Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at a gathering hosted by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance to discuss the future of Greenland, the world's largest island. This comes as U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened to annex the Danish autonomous territory.
The Danish foreign minister, his Greenlandic counterpart, and the U.S. Secretary of State, hosted by the American Vice President at the White House. This historic meeting is scheduled to take place later today. And topping the agenda is, of course, the matter of Greenland's sovereignty. The U.S. has recently renewed its threats to annex the autonomous Danish territory.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
But when it comes to holding talks with representatives of Greenland, the leader of the U.S. administration has research to do.
The premier of Greenland said today he prefers to stay with Denmark. You see that as the
Who said that?
The premier of Greenland.
Well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I disagree with them. I don't know who he is. Don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
Although the Greenlandic Prime Minister is not scheduled to participate in Wednesday's talks at the White House, he has been very vocal about Greenland's sovereignty.
One thing must be clear to everyone. Greenland does not want to be owned by the United States. Greenland does not want to be governed by the United States. Greenland does not want to be a part of the United States.
His Danish counterpart expressed a deep regret over Washington's threats.
It has not been easy to stand up to completely unacceptable pressure from our closest ally for a lifetime. However, there are many indications that the most challenging part is ahead of us.
The U.S. threats to annex Greenland, the world's biggest island, have been strongly rejected by its residents and European allies. Germany has called for a European brigade to be stationed in Greenland. And France has announced they'll be opening a consulate on the Arctic island. Other European leaders have also rallied behind Nuuk, quoting NATO alliances as stronger than Washington's expansive ambitions. Wednesday's meeting at the White House could put these alliances to the test.
Tensions are rising as the U.S. threatens to take action in Iran. The U.S. State Department has ordered American citizens to leave Iran immediately and reported that well over 10,000 Iranians have been arrested by the Islamic regime as it begins to execute protesters. According to the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency, over 2,500 protesters have already been killed.
Donald Trump has once again threatened to intervene in Iran amid large-scale anti-regime protests in the Islamic Republic. Trump said that if Iran hangs protesters, the U.S. is going to take very strong action.
And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way.
In what seems like a direct challenge to the U.S. president, the head of Iran's judiciary vowed to carry out speedy trials and executions.
If things are delayed, it's possible that the action we take today will be the same we take 2 months from now, and it wouldn't have the same effect.
26-year-old Erfaneh Soltani is the first protester sentenced to death. The U.S. State Department issued a statement saying that he will not be the regime's last victim, as Iran is set to begin a wave of executions against protesters. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Air Force says that the scale of readiness to respond to an attack has been raised to its highest level.
If the United States was to intervene with military action, the regime would say, hey, look, we told you so. In other words, they delegitimize the protest by pointing to the United States, and I think Trump would be playing into their hands if his action was too aggressive.
For over 2 weeks now, Iranians have protested worsening economic conditions. What started as a shopkeepers' protest quickly transformed into a massive movement to topple Iran's current regime. The authorities responded by shutting down its internet nationwide and ultimately curtailed dissent.
Protests lost their momentum. We can observe sharp decrease in numbers of protestants and numbers of demonstration. However, the last few days were marked also by a sharp increase in number of casualties.
A US-based human rights activist news agency has reported that over 2,500 people have been killed so far during protests in Iran.
Elon Musk's AI platform Grok has run into a challenging and controversial predicament. Since the end of last year, the AI chatbot has been responding to user prompts to undress images of women and put them in bikinis. People are creating AI-generated deepfakes with no safeguards, transforming images of people into sexually explicit material. This news comes at a time when Poland's president, Karol Nawrocki, has officially vetoed a law intended to implement the European Union's Digital Services Act in Poland.
Grok, Elon Musk's AI platform, will now be integrated into U.S. military networks as part of a new AI acceleration strategy.
We're excited to announce the next frontier AI model company to join GenAI.mil, and that is Grok from XAI, which will go live later this month. Very soon, we will have the world's leading AI models on every unclassified and classified network throughout our department.
But as XAI locks in a contract with the Pentagon for up to $200 million, on the other side of the Atlantic, the Grok AI is under serious scrutiny over deep fakes bordering on public indecency, to say the least.
The Grok AI tool on the social media platform X has been used to create and share degrading, non-consensual, intimate deepfakes. The content which has circulated on X is vile. It's not just an affront to decent society, it is illegal.
The UK government will introduce new laws this week to crack down on AI tools used to create non-consensual intimate images. In Italy, persons generating or distributing such content will face criminal charges, and several other European countries are following the lead. In Brussels, the EU hasn't launched a formal investigation yet, but the issues hit their radar.
The fact that X or Grok, or X for Grok, is now offering a spicy mode, showing explicit sexual content with some output generated with childlike images. This is not spicy, this is illegal, this is appalling, this is disgusting.
And over in Indonesia and Malaysia, governments were much more drastic and banned Grok AI last week until safeguards are created to stop the generation and distribution of pornographic content based on real photos. Some civil society groups are even calling for Grok to be removed from major app stores.
The legal pressure and the threat of bans will do a lot in moving the needle for both acts to consider changing what Grok's capabilities are right now.
From outright blocks in Southeast Asia to criminal probes and regulatory warnings in Europe, authorities deplore that safeguards are failing. But according to Musk, critics are looking for, quote, any excuse for censorship.
Poland isn't the only country experiencing a spell of brisk winter weather. Across Europe, icebreakers have been hard at work clearing rivers, and air travel has faced significant disruptions.
MS Eisvogel, the Kingfisher, is a 70-year-old icebreaker that now braves the icy waters of the Danube River in Austria. It has hibernated for a long while, but now is awakened for duty to clear a harbor in Vienna.
The MS Eisvogel is not very large, 33 meters long, but it is very strong. It has 12mm planking in its front hull area, 2 520 HP engines, and is especially equipped to crush ice with its own 80-ton weight.
With the ability to break ice as thick as 70 centimeters, the MS Eisvogel isn't impressed by the puny 10-centimeter layer of ice covering the Danube.
That feels good. It doesn't happen every day, but it's nice to be able to make crushed ice out of the Danube.
Follow the icy trail of the Danube and you eventually enter Hungary. The country's largest lake, Balaton, froze over for the first time in 9 years. A true winter joy for some.
We miss the winter. We feel good. Winter should look like this.
But there is less enthusiasm in the capital, where its main airport ceased operations this morning due to ice.
During the morning, 8 flights were diverted, meaning they had to land at other airports in other cities, typically Belgrade, Zagreb or Graz.
Those who were indeed redirected to Belgrade can expect further disruptions, as Serbian authorities have declared a state of emergency across 10 of its municipalities. In western Serbia, some residents have been without water or electricity for over a week now. Winter also struck hard in Romania, with temperatures dropping as low as -21 degrees Celsius.
I came by bike. It's cold. My ears froze.
And there is no end in sight. Snowy winter conditions are expected to affect the region for at least the next several days.
That's all for Midday Report today. Thanks for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.